All right, guys, so this time it will be different. We went through chaos. We all know we went through the pandemic, we went through inflation. I will talk about the differences between the United States and us here in Canada and why this time around it is extremely difficult for Canada to bounce back, right? I mean, in 2008, we have seen the financial collapse. However, that reset will help them today in the United States versus us, and renewing of mortgages every 5 years versus in the United States that's every 25 to 30 years. Just that aspect alone gives the feeling that the entire risk is on our shoulders here in Canada. So I'll get into that. I have 5 hard questions that I will try to answer as best as I can. This is from the viewers and subscribers. So let's just get into the video and see how this time around it will be extremely difficult, right? Because I had even some people tell me, I had an actual conversation with somebody today and said like, look, as soon as the inflation goes on in Canada, it will automatically trigger real estate. And then once it's triggered real estate, then the prices will obviously skyrocket. It happened before and it will happen again. Well, hold on a second, but things changed. Like we were forgetting the period when we went into the pandemic. Like most of Canadians were able to kind of push through. Yes, the death ratio was high, but able to push through. And all of a sudden it triggered the new threshold, the new ceiling. And at that time, it opened up a completely different can of worms, which actually brought Canadians the new ability to get more. Money was printed, and it created a complete chaos that drove real estate pricing and everything else through the roof, right? All of that is gone. Ladies and gentlemen, it's gone. If you're talking to people, where else are they going to borrow from? How are they going to get into the game of investment if they're currently underwater? If they're an investor, if they're a landlord, if they're Airbnb, if they bought a student housing, if they upscaled in the pandemic, all of those people are underwater, whether they're underwater by 10% or 30%. And now we are getting into the game of difficulties here in Canada, right? Because the biggest ally, yes, there are friends, the United States, right? In some segments, obviously, of course, we're sharing the longest border in the world. But look, tariffs, the business is going from Canada. What do we have left? How are we going to bounce back? And just because people think, hey, look, inflation goes, real estate prices go up, it goes hand in hand. There's no other question about that. Yes, I have a question. I don't believe it's going to happen. Is it going to happen? I personally believe it's not going to happen because we don't have the setup for it to happen. So, Canadian mortgages trap. Risk is forcing out you, which means in the United States, 30 years fixed on average, and when somebody buys it, and it was happening during the pandemic, they lock in a certain rate, and those rates were very low. So that's why people are not selling as much. And look at our inventory in Canada is blowing out of proportion. 2 million renewals in 2026 and 7, right, for Canadians. That's all the effect, right? So Canada's max on average is 5 years. So it's forcing you to re-trigger and rebalance your balance sheet once again, right? So that's crazy. It's a quantum interest collection agency. It's nuts. I mean, we don't have choice really that much, and it's a good thing to have a bank because you will not be able to save $1 million on your own to be able to purchase a home. So yes, obviously it's a relief. The bank gives it to you and you work it out, right? And like in the term. But this terms keeps resetting every 5 years, right? And on top of that, let's not forget another major component in this puzzle. During the pandemic, most people said, hey, look, I'm going to go variable. Then once that story ended up going sideways, then, mortgage brokers and the bank said, don't worry, we got you. We'll give you 1 year and then you will reset it. So then most went from variable bad into locked okay, even though it was higher, but okay, we'll save you for a little bit. And then what happened once that was gone? Oh, don't worry, we'll just reset it for another 12 to 24 months, right? So you keep going back and forward, being locked, paying interest only, just so you don't default. So at one point, the curtain will open and it will say, hey, look, we have to, function at some point with some type of, I would say, system. So yes, here's the opportunity, 5 years locked. I'm telling you, 99% of the people will not be able to handle their mortgage, right? And then on the contrary, people say, well, don't worry, guys, banks don't want your home. And I can agree with you. They want you to pay the mortgage. But look at the inventory. Bank owned all over Toronto, GTA, I'm sure in Canada, but at least here it's through the roof. It's through the roof. And everybody is holding by that small little thread from the sky, just praying something happens. Listen, if you did not figure it out by now, if you did not position yourself, if you don't have your ducks in order, if you didn't do your homework on time, you're just prolonging with small band-aids, right? And you're hoping somehow, somewhere, a magical someone is going to come and say, we got your back. Guys, nobody has your back. And I can get into so much more. We have seen it in the pandemic. Who was that person that had your back? Family. Do you know how many kids purchased condos, right? I mean, everybody was thinking, hey, this is the next best thing since invention of bread, I would say, right? Okay, fine, I get it. Like let's buy this pre-con, right? Like, because these kids, they did not know any better. And then the parents borrowed against their homes. They took HELOCs. They took line of credits. Every day I have phone calls, people crying. What am I supposed to do? Like, what do you mean my down payment is gone? I'm like, no, your down payment is still in the pre-con condo. However, the price got slashed to that particular measurement where your down payment evaporated. It's not there anymore. It doesn't exist, right? You cannot appraise, you cannot sell, cannot do nothing. You're stuck with it, and you're stuck with the payment. And if you rented, if you calculated, I did many videos on that. Even if you calculated, let's say you calculate having a tenant for 5 years, the best tenant in the world with no problems, no issues, they're paying on time and everything else, you'll be down another 100,000 in 5 years. Plus what you have lost, which is 20%, plus all the equity, plus. And then on top of that, you have to redo your mortgage in 1, 3, or 5 years, whatever term you decided to take. So it's a never-ending story. And I sincerely believe that this is just the scratch. I mean, we have seen, like, the curtain got open a little bit and we saw, oh my gosh, not everybody, but most saw, like, okay, this will go downhill, right? Very bad, very quickly. And yes, some people are holding on. Fine, congratulations, you will lose more money. But for everyone else, they're like, oh my gosh, panic, but they don't do anything. So eventually, it'll come together. And for our neighbors here in the United States, I think they went through the shock. Boom, 2008, huge shock. They had the collapse, they've seen it, they recuperated, they focused, they're only focusing on the, I would say, business aspect of being an entrepreneur, making room for not only success, but for creating an environment, right? Like, what can you do here? Like in Canada, it is very difficult and it's costing us so much more money, right? So I would get into these questions right now. I think it's the perfect time. So I don't know how I'm going to answer, but I'll do my best. Why are Americans allowed to lock in for 30 years and we get punished every 5? To be honest with you, I don't know. I think it's the banking system. I think that's how it's developed. In some of the European countries, it's the same system. You buy, you purchase. That's the particular rate at the time of purchase. You locked in, and if you don't sell or if you don't transfer it somewhere else, from my understanding, it remains the way it remains until you pay it off, or at the end of that term, let's say it's 30 years, that's your last literally payment and you're finished, right? So why does it feel like our system is built to keep us exposed, not protected? To be honest with you, I don't know. And I think it ties in with the actual 2008, because if we were not built the way we were built, right? I think in 2008, from what I believe, I could be completely wrong, I think at the time we should have had the same crash as the United States. I think that was I'm gonna say the time where it should have happened naturally, right? But then I think the stimulants, for some reason, they wanted to keep it safe. They wanted somehow to keep Canada protected as much as somebody or someone wanted it. So they were fueling, they were printing, they were giving as much as possible. And then we saw on top of a hockey stick, which was not like 90, but it was going like that. We went like that, right? Like all of a sudden, Canada was opened up as the bulletproof investment, right? Because from 2000 to 2007-8, right? Like that's solid, 7-8 years of our economy and real estate, being, 3 to 5%, maybe 10% in some areas, seeing that growth. But we have seen a solid economy. And then from 2008, after that little dip, like just exploded. We exploded, ladies and gentlemen, all the way to 2020. And then from there, we just went ludicrous, like just crazy, right? So I think now it's the time where everybody will be, left, and all the weight will be on each individual's shoulder, right? So it is what it is. It seems to be designed that way. I don't know. Did Canada avoid 2008 crash, or did we just delay it until now? I think it was just postponed. It was just like, okay, there's a little bit more life in here, so let's just give it extra support and let's make sure that it continues. And then eventually, like most countries, Canada is not the only one. I think there's so many more countries in the world that will experience, feel, and experience the crash, right? So I think it is what it is. Is the U.S. Pullbacks and isolations, what safety net does Canada actually have? You know what? I think United States and look, a lot of more population. I mean, trust me, they got their own issues. They got their own problems. But I think overall, they're creating their own safety nets. And I don't know. I mean, we have a lot to offer here in Canada. But at the end, like sometimes it's like a lot of countries have what we have. Like it's not like we have, like I get it. Fresh water, this, that, lumber, but our biggest ally or importer is the United States, which they told us, hey, look, you're on hold, right? Could be 5 years, could be 20 years, could be 2,000 years. We don't know, right? So I think we're just kind of left out in the cold, and let's see how we can figure it out. I don't know how we will figure it out, right? Like if you ask like most people in Alberta, this is from my understanding, I don't know, and they say, hey, look, we want to be US, we don't care, right? I spoke to some and I said, yeah, what about, the medical and all of that stuff? I mean, we still, cherish that, or it's like, what are you talking about? We want to be 51st state. This is from my understanding. I'm just a messenger. I don't know, right? But this is what I feel is going on, right? So I don't know, like how we will figure it out. But whatever we figure out, I don't think there's one formula solution. We have to have those prices come to, not even come to a reach with the cash flow, with the earnings, and with the trust. Because once you lose trust in the market, it's hard to gain it back unless it makes sense, unless people can feel in their heart, hey, look, I'm safe for another 5, 10, or 15 years, or this will be an investment that I can, help myself in the retirement or the kids and so on and so on. How can housing go up if nobody can afford to buy anymore? Well, that's exactly it, right? So it just goes back to the first statement of the acquaintance that I had, and he told me, hey, look, inflation follows the real estate price and printing money and all of that stuff, so it will just automatically happen. Yes, it could, but I believe that everything else has to be in line, right? Everyone else has to be in line and be ready to pull that trigger, because like we went through that system literally a few years ago, and a lot of people got burned. So people are not gonna just take that particular opportunity just like that, right? Even if it happens, I think there will be a lot of pullback, right? So yes, precious metals, many of you commented, many of you are saying, I get emails and calls and comments in the feed and all that stuff. Buy gold, buy silver, buy all of that stuff. I have people say, buy XRPs, buy Bitcoin, buy this, buy that, right? Like go S&P like 500, invest in the banks. Like, I don't even know, to be honest with you, I don't even know what's the right direction to go. I just know that wherever situation, the current situation that we're in, I think it's a difficult situation to be in for most Canadians, and that most will affect many. So I hope you gained something out of this video. Please subscribe to the channel, like, share, and I'll see you in the next one.